Okay, I'd like to call to order the Parks and Recreation Commission meeting, regular meeting agenda, April 10th, 2025, 7 p.m. Can I get Commissioner Pelayo to do the flag salute? You're so good at it, man.
All right, put your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll do our roll call now.
Chair Flores,
Present.
Vice Chair Reese,
Present.
Secretary Esquivel,
Present.
Commissioner Pelayo,
Present.
Commissioner Alejandra Flores has resigned as of today. So
Wow.
now the meeting compensation disclosure pursuant to Government Code Section 54952.3, compensation for monthly attendance by the Parks and Recreation Commissioners is $75 per monthly meeting. Report on posting. I, Ana Medina, Executive Assistant to the Parks Director, certify that a true and correct copy of the foregoing meeting agenda was properly posted on April 2nd, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. as required by law.
Thank you. So if we read the minutes, can we get a approval of our minutes from last meeting? There's none? Oh, yeah, we didn't have a meeting. Yeah. What about the meeting before that? We don't have to approve those? There? Okay. Okay. So before we open up the public comment, I just want to say a couple of things. Thank you, everybody. We had a very busy March, so I attended a few things. So just before we get started, I want to say thank you guys, especially for being here tonight too, especially because, you know, we all have busy lives, and to take time out to attend these meetings may not seem like a lot to some people, but it's very meaningful for the city and it's very meaningful for the community. So I really want to thank you guys for that. So at this time, we'll open up for public comment.
All right, so we had the Citizens Advisory Committee meeting,
Can you say your name and
oh yes, Chingus Dominguez, resident of Southgate. And so the Citizens Advisory Committee, myself and Commissioner Pelayo were there, and thanks with the help of Mr. Costi, we were able to score $1 million from the CDBG funds to fund a bunch of projects that are on Mr. Costi's to-do list. And so what Commissioner Pelayo and I figured out is, this is the blueprint of how to move forward in securing funding for our Parks and Recreation Department. And going forward, this is what the approach that we're going to take for the next 10 years. We're going to be going after the Citizens Advisory Committee members and asking them to pour as much CDBG funds into our Department of Parks and Recreation to really just fund the hell out of it and take our parks to the next level. I want to explore what we can do with Cesar Chavez Park, with Hawdale Regional Park. I don't know what is on your to-do list, Mr. Costi, but we're going to be going after these parks also. And the thing I want to say is, if you can make whatever recommendations you want to Mr. Costi to, can you fix this? Can you repair this? Can you focus your attention on this piece of business pertaining to the park? If he doesn't have any funding for his department, he can't do shit. He can't do a motherfucking thing with his department if he doesn't have the funds. So what Commissioner Pelayo and I figured out is, this is it. This is the approach of how to secure funding for our Department of Parks and Recreation, using CDBG funds, pouring it into it. And the thing that I love about the commissioners on the Citizens Advisory Committee is they proved me wrong. They're not dummies. They get it. They see the value in our Department of Parks and Recreation and the impact that it has on the lives of the people that live here and around the surrounding cities. And I can't tell you how pleased we weren't able to secure the funding for the splash pad, but the questions that they asked Mr. Costi, the level of thought and consideration, I know that if he had said yes in a flash, they would have given him the whole sum of the $1 million to fund the hell out of it. And even after when the meeting ended, they were giving me tips on how to pursue and keep at it. But yeah, I can't tell you how thrilled I am with the commissioners on that commission. And I told them this is the best possible outcome. You can't top what they did. All right, that's all I have.
Thank you. Do we have any more public comments? Okay, if there is no more public comments, we'll close public comments at this time. There are no presentations. We'll move on to open session items. First up is the police department oral report regarding city park safety.
And good evening, commissioners. As you know, each and every year we try to bring our partners from the police department over here to kind of go over some of the safety and different things happening at the park from their perspective. The commissioners have usually asked us each year to do this just to bring us some updates on what they see as issues, and we give them some feedback from this side. And so with us today is Lieutenant Correa, and he's been here before. He's a long-term officer, 20 years now?
21, yeah.
21.
You stand
Yeah.
corrected.
And so he's going to kind of give a little presentation on the police department happenings in the Parks and Recreation side of life, and then feel free to ask him a few questions.
Welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So we have had, I know there's concern about drinking and transients and stuff at mainly Southgate Park and also in our east side along the riverbed area, the parks, Holidale. So we have been having extra patrol detail. It's an overtime detail we have put out. Officers are patrolling our parks, primarily focusing on Southgate Park because that's where we have the majority of visitors and our community at. And it's good to report that there hadn't been too many citations or arrests. A lot of contacts, a lot of contacting people at the park, a lot of, mainly people that hanging out don't really look like they're there for the park purposes, for recreation. And I think the presence of the police department there during these hours kind of deterred a lot of people hanging out and drinking and whatnot. We had one incident where one of the park rangers after hours asked somebody to leave, and then this individual decided to swing his little Razor scooter at the patrol unit and did cause some damage. She called she called for help. She kept her distance, but maintained a visual contact, and we were able to get there, arrest him, charge him with the vandalisms. Other than that, we don't have too many significant incidents that I can think of. We did assist with the Azalea Carnival and the car show as well. No major incidents there. If you have any questions for me, I'm open for.
We'll start with them, commissioners.
Thanks for your presentation and the hard work of the department. I personally attend Southgate Park pretty routinely and have seen their presence. I did hear from one of my neighbors, though, that he was concerned about going into, and I already expressed this to Mr. Costley, that he was concerned about going and using the restroom at Southgate Park by the small children's playground, and that he did notice almost every time he goes in that there's a gang member throwing gang signs at him or something, and he looks really far from from being a gang member. So he did express that, and I'm hoping that there is, I don't know if it's routine for security to go visit the restrooms or to see if there's homeless people hanging out. I think I haven't used the restrooms there. I honestly try not to, but I do remember just kind of being weary about sketchy individuals in the past. They are kept a lot better though, at least on the women's side. But that was my first question. And as far as reporting things, the thought just actually crossed my mind whether there's an option to report things on the Southgate app related to the park, and whether maybe that can be, or even for it to go to the police, just so that it can be more discreet versus making a call.
Yes,
when-
there is an option on the city app. Um, what I don't want is it's more for tips, right? This is what I think is happening. It's not for, if there's a crime happening at the moment, obviously it would be a phone call,
Yeah.
so we can respond to the call for service. The app is the way we get that is through email, and we're not always monitoring our email, if we're in the field. So the best way to report a crime happening now would be a phone call. Then that's always in emergencies. It would be 911. But if there is a tip, like, hey, I think this individual who drives this car might be selling drugs, or there's a group that hangs out daily between these hours, tips like that, we can respond to and kind of investigate a little bit. But yes, there is an option on the app for that.
And what about calls? I think it was kind of brushed upon during the discussion for SoFi getting a liquor license. And I know that a lot of the residents across the street were complaining about folks drinking in their cars around the SoFi facility. Have there been any calls to complain about them, or
About the license? Or-
the drinking in the parking lot?
So we do get calls about drinking, not just at SoFi, but in general in the parking lots or on the benches or whatever. And we do respond, and we'll cite if needed, make them pick up their trash, things like that. We did receive complaints about the license that was going to be issued. I thought that's what you were asking.
Oh
but-
no.
Yeah. In fact, I had a lady call, and she was going to get mad. Mothers Against Drunk Driving involved, and I told her I think that's a good idea if you're that adamant about it. I mean, it's a great idea. Get mad involved, get whoever. But as far as drinking in the parking lots and stuff, yeah, we do get calls. That's kind of I shouldn't say normal call, but that's kind of one of the frequent calls we get. And most of the time. We get there and they're gone, right? Or they've left, and sometimes they leave behind garbage or whatever, which gets picked up. But if we do encounter somebody drinking there, we'll cite and stuff.
So you do something, because I've heard complaints that the cops don't even do anything, or that you're limited on what you can do when it comes to actually looking through to see if they were drinking.
So that is true. If there we do have laws that we have to follow as well, and we can't just if they're drinking out in public, or if we see something obvious in plain view, we can enforce or investigate further and maybe search and things like that. But if we get a call about somebody drinking and we get there and say the person drank a shot or something in his car, a bottle of whiskey or whatever, and now they're on the handball courts or the basketball courts, we're limited to what we can do. If they're drunk, we can arrest for being drunk in public. But we have to kind of there's a lot of limitations on us as well, that what we can do. But I get those complaints too about we don't do anything. We do. It's just not always to the expectation of what somebody watches CSI and things like that on TV.
Yeah.
It's not all. We can't always do that, and there's times where it does happen.
Yeah, you have rules. I get it. No, I just wanted to get your take on it, because I feel like when people say that you guys don't do anything, and then it discourages people from calling in.
Unfortunately, sometimes it seems that way, right? The officer shows up, contacts a person who's no longer drinking, is not intoxicated, even though they may have drank a little bit early, but they're not to a level where we can arrest somebody. If somebody has a drink and walks outside, or at the park, we can't arrest them unless they're intoxicated, right? So they have to meet a certain criteria for us. So sometimes, the optics to somebody who called the police or reported something like that, to them it might look like we showed up and did nothing. But the officers show up, they investigate what they can, and at the end of the day, they have to we have to abide by the law as well, and the powers that we have. And
Yeah, no, I get it, and I'm glad you went through that, because it is kind of frustrating hearing the complaints, but if people don't call, then what can we do?
right, and whenever we talk to somebody, we try to encourage them to call us every time. Not, it's kind of discouraging when to a person, that's what they see is the cops showed up and they didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And
I feel like it's like a basketball game, right? Like there's a foul in every play, and the
Right.
refs are not going to call in every play. So I'm pretty sure you could probably arrest 100 people every Saturday and Sunday at the park. But
right,
you're-
right.
I mean, pretty much the best thing to do is just see something, okay, kick them out of the park, maybe just move it along or something
Right,
like that.
and then sometimes we get there a little late, right? We're responding, so there's a time delay, and unless we happen to be right around the corner or at the park or it makes it difficult to once something happens, we get there after the fact. It's not always the outcome that the public wants or the caller wants, but
I think the main thing we're hearing here is that you guys respond.
yes, sir.
You guys
Yeah,
are there,
absolutely.
you
If
guys
we get a call for
make your
service,
presence felt, and I think that's important to people to at least see your presence and see that you guys are responding to the calls.
and because of that, that's the reason why I put together the detail for extra patrol at the parks, and it's still running through now. It's until right around closing time. We have an officer out there, mainly in the evenings, because that's when most of the activity is, between 3 p.m. to about 9 p.m. or so.
Has that started yet?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So I started that early March, beginning of March, all through March, and still going.
On a daily basis?
Yes. So we'll have 1 or 2 officers out there.
Yeah.
Aside from our park rangers that we have.
Oh,
So, and they know we're out there. And like I said, there was a lot of contacts, a lot of, ask people to move along, but not a lot of arrests because,
I mean, that's not the goal. The goal is just to have
right. The
I get what you're
goal is
to just protect it as much
right,
as possible.
the
Yeah, I get what you're
safety,
saying.
safety issue,
Right,
and
safety concern.
and I think it's working. I think it works, but sometimes it picks up because we do, for example, we'll do enforcement in the riverbed, right? And because we did have a spike of criminal activity in the riverbeds, right? So we did enforcement there, and so they move out, and then they'll go to different areas. We were dealing with the library issue, and it's that's they're gonna have to go somewhere else too. So we're gonna continue with the parks detail for some time, and I think it's working.
Appreciate it. Anything to add?
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's it. All right. So yeah, I just wanted to, I think that's a good idea, right? To have an extra detail. I think that's going to make a big difference because I don't know if I'm correct, but I believe the park was one of the places where most calls were placed or calls for service. And I think that's a good, a detail. It's like having a good offense, right? I mean, if you're on the offensive, people see it and it deters some of that activity. So I think that's good. Kind of touching on the restroom point, the restroom that's on, I think, is that Walnut where the fountain is behind the fountain.
Right.
I go to the park maybe a couple of times a week, and I've seen almost every time that I'm there's someone either showering or bathing inside, and there's like clothing hanging outside getting dried, basically, So that's, I think, something that sort of goes on with what my colleague was saying. So I think, again, you guys have been doing it since March. Hopefully that people begin to see you guys there regularly. I think that should deter some people from doing it. So that's good, actually. A question regarding like calls. I know that the outcome isn't always what the individual who called it in is, but is there like a follow-up with them where, hey, we received a call from you, we went out there, this is what happened, and this was the outcome, for example?
Not always, unless the caller requests that. So sometimes we do
Okay.
contact the caller if we don't find anything, or if they report something, usually something a little more serious, and the officer can't find it, or it doesn't, and it does, it doesn't match up to what the call said. We'll give the caller back. A lot of times, the majority of the times, the caller doesn't want to be contacted.
Okay.
So unfortunately, we it ends there.
Sure.
The caller doesn't want to give their name or phone number or anything, and they don't want any contact. So a lot of times it ends with what the officer can see or not see.
Okay. Yeah, and then just one other thing that I wanted to touch on. I think we've sort of touched on this in the past, but I've been at the park where near the playground that is by Tweedy and Hildreth, sort of in that area, almost every time that I pass through there, it smells like smoke. And smoking is completely prohibited in the parks, right? So I'm wondering if maybe, and I know there's a cost to this, but a bunch of parks, for example, have signage that says smoking, drinking, and whatever is prohibited here, and then here's the number to call and report it. And is that something that maybe we can think of to include in within our parks so that it's more available? Because I know some people may want to call 911, but some of these things are not necessarily 911 calls, and that number is not known by a lot of the residents. So I think maybe if we can look into that and see if that can be something that can be worked on.
Actually, we have those signs up at the entry to every park in the city.
Yeah.
Okay. So throughout the park, but like within the park, is there additional signage like along the trails and stuff like that?
Not really around the trails. The main entrances of like Hollydale and Southgate, at the different entrances, the main entrances, we have them, but we don't put them in the playground areas and stuff like that. Part of it is a maintenance issue. People tend to beat up signs. It costs us a lot of money to make a sign, keep it up, and it gets graffitied, it gets beaten up. We don't get that much action off the sign itself, and so it's kind of one of those. They get a little more, as the lieutenant said, contact time from our rangers or from our PD that helps us move that along sometimes. But we can look at different options as we do. We just don't know that through my long-term experience here, signage isn't always the best helper. It just reading it and doing anything doesn't always help.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think the more that we have out there, I think the more we can provide for people to have that access to you guys, given that the app, there's a bit of a delay there. And I think that would be something to explore. Maybe even at the sports center, right? Have something that says, hey, in case you need to call or whatever, here's some info. So I think that's pretty much it for now.
Actually, for that, something we may do, it might be a quick idea for that, is instead of that, maybe if we post it somewhere in our brochure, Tina, we can put a little article on that just says
Yeah, I think that'd be
that
great.
might help us, because that actually goes out to everyone.
And your social media too.
I
You
think
put
I've
on
seen
social
it in
media.
the brochure, isn't it? I think it is there. I've seen it.
Right, but it may not be a bad idea to highlight that somewhere down the line, just to say, hey,
Yeah.
we don't allow this and this, and just a reminder to the residents.
Sure. Like maybe, hey, here are a few things that are prohibited at the park. Here's the number, or maybe even a QR code, scan it, and then they can report it. I think that not every month, but maybe every, couple months, that would be good to include.
And then to touch on the restrooms issue and the homeless issue is, we kind of have two different approaches to that, to homelessness. The main thing is, we ask them to move along, or, offer the humanitarian part of it, which is offer services, try to get them in temporary housing or whatnot. And then if there is a crime that's occurring, right, drug use, things like that, then we can enforce crime also. But, for the most part, usually we approach with let's try to get some resources and get them at a place outside of the park, right, under a roof or something. But the majority of our contacts that we do have, they don't want that really. They rather they'll move,
Right.
they'll go somewhere else, and eventually they come back.
Maybe going back to my suggestion of maybe adding something on the app that's solely for the parks, that maybe that can reach you guys, and if you guys have staff there for like, I mean, I'm not saying like heavy drug use, but like people smoking or smoking pot. I mean, the kids' playground's next to the basketball court, so that's always an issue there.
Right. And Keaton and I can have a discussion with Giselle on the app side of it and see what we can do.
Yeah, there's something we can do there. Yeah.
Even when it comes to damage on things, like I've done the graffiti reporting through and it goes to you guys pretty quick, but I'm wondering if there's other things like other damage to materials or equipment.
Well, you say
that
you
can
get
be
that, right? I
reported
mean,
that
there's
too.
emails that go through to you
Yeah,
guys
we
from the
get
app.
them. So we do get them. What I was referring to is if it's a crime occurring at the moment,
Like a time sensitive matter,
Yeah.
then that
right?
wouldn't
That should
Yeah,
work.
it's always better to
Right.
call.
Yeah,
We
but when
do
it's
get
something
like
smoking or tagging, I mean,
we've gotten
that's-
reports of like people that camp out or like cars that are there, and we get those tips. That's a good
yeah.
that's a good example. Is that's one that we can get through there, and then the watch commander can request an officer or assign an officer to go and look for that particular van or whatever the complaint is. But if somebody drinking in public, like that's something that's happening now, that would be a phone call is always better than that because
Yeah.
a few hours later or in the evening or the next day that they're not going to be there anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for the report. Appreciate it. Just one last thing. I'm pretty sure you document all your calls, right? That you respond to. Is there any way to create like a quarterly report or something for us to see the numbers that you guys
For-
are dealing with?
For the park calls,
Responses, yeah. Park, the park ones specifically, not everything, but just the park calls
Yeah, I
that you
think
guys are
we-
responding to.
I think we can-
we can see the effectiveness of what
see
you guys are doing.
the amount of calls for service. Is that what you're asking?
Calls to service to Alan's house, right?
And just,
So-
sorry, I just touch bases on that, but yes, the brochure does have a non-emergency police line here. It's here, so it's already there.
I think it's posted
Which
on the
is
signs
great.
as well.
Yeah,
Right.
the signs have it too, yeah.
Right.
But yeah, it would be kind of we'd have to put the different
Yes,
parks
it
in
is,
different locations. But
Again, I know
it's
that's-
not
I wasn't saying,
it's not
if it's
impossible. I
something
mean,
you
it's
can
something
do,
we can do.
great.
Yes.
I mean, it'd be something that we can see and appreciate because I know you guys are doing a hell of a job out there, and you just started since March. So if it's something that we can see and in a presentation,
Right.
again, you don't have to be here. Just send it to Anna, and she can email it to us, and we can
Okay.
take a look at that. So
Yes, sir.
if it's possible, appreciate it.
No problem.
But again, appreciate everything you've been doing since March, and keep it up. And if there's anything we do, I mean, we're at the park all the time. Most of
Yeah.
us here have grown up at that park, so
Yeah.
Um,
So did I.
so we're familiar with the ins and outs of that park, and we want to keep it up. I mean, I have my granddaughter now playing baseball there, and so it's very important.
Right.
That
Yeah, I know.
have
I
a
understand.
safe
I have
park.
yeah, I grew up here. I grew up at the park, and I have my nieces and nephews' kids now, are at the parks now and sports and stuff. So it's important. It's my community.
Exactly.
We try our best. It's important for us too.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you to Officer Flores, I believe her name is. She's always there. She's
Yeah,
always
she's
patrolling.
out there.
Yeah, she's very good.
They're all very good. Yeah, they're all good. Yeah, she's the one who got her car banged
no.
up by this individual, but
Oh.
yeah, she handled that well, actually. She handled that very well.
Thank
That
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion to receive and file?
I make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. On to item number 2, review of concessions agreement.
Yes, once again, this is one of those yearly reports we bring to you guys. It's kind of our listing of who we're working with in different areas and how long the contracts are. We always like to just keep you guys abreast of where we're going, what we're up to. This year, it's pretty consistent. Our two major ones that are coming up for any renewal are both vet care and our carnival agreement. As I noted in the report, carnival operators are their own breed in life. And they have a tendency that in the 36 years I've been here, we have put the carnival operation out to bid probably 10 times. And in those 10 times, we've received one contract bid back every time. That's it. As long as that operator, who is currently Fiesta Carnival in our city, as long as he still wants it, kind of the unwritten rule in life is that no one else will bid it.
Hmm.
It's one of those, they tell us this, you know. I've talked to the other operators because I know them. And because some of them do the Tweedy Street Fair, some do other things. The different carnivals change, right? Every year we get 2 different operators of carnivals, one for the Azalea Festival, one for 4th of July, but the provider is the same. So we talked, I know most of the carnival providers, and they say, hey, no, that's kind of the rule across the board is you don't interrupt Joe's territory. He leaves Ted alone. No one bids against each other. And while it doesn't leave for a whole lot of competition, it's pretty consistent across the board. I've asked other cities because we've had this conversation and they're like, no one sends us a bid. And it's just part of what happens. And, they're actually, carnival operators are becoming few and far between nowadays. COVID really kicked their butt. I mean, they had 3 years they couldn't put anything on. Think about that. And let me tell you, a Ferris wheel costs you nowadays what, almost $500,000 for a Ferris wheel. And you got to maintain that. You got to pay the bills. And 3 years without any dates, a lot of them went out of business. And so it's becoming a shrinking group of people that are available. So they tend to leave each other alone. They help each other. They send rides to each other, but they don't play with each other. But most of our other contracts that you already have, if you look at the list that we sent you, most of them are current or going on for a little while longer. We have some longer ones. We don't see any current operational questions in them. The vet care is something we're working on, and they've been pretty good to us for this and stuff. We always have little blips here and there with every single one of them, but nothing bad. So our concept is that we're going to keep what we have and look to renew the 2 that we don't, but most likely with the same vendors. And if you have any questions.
Oh, pretty straightforward. Any questions from you guys?
I just have a few questions, Steve. With some of the vendors that are there, like the vet care one, that's maybe the one that you guys are working on currently. Are there other companies that provide these services that approach you guys, or is it mainly vet care the only one that's there, and that's why it's?
There are 2 or 3 in the whole of Southern California.
Mm.
And they're almost like the carnival, right? They're not running over each other to steal each other's business, right? Actually, the funny part is that Southgate Park is in June. They have a big vaccination day. We're the busiest park and the busiest vaccination day of any place in Southern California.
Wow.
We're it. They tell us, they're like, you're it. Everyone comes to vaccinate, rabies, do the whole thing there, lines. Problem is that there's always, 220 dog owners.
Yeah.
And one guy who wants to bring his cat, and every dog's like, oh, and the cat guy always wants to walk them right past the line, and every dog's like, but they don't all get along with each other, but it's a big day there. So we haven't had a whole lot. I mean, Siaka does some of that stuff, but they won't contract out the vet care stuff on a regular basis. We need more than the one day or because we have a SIACA contract
Mhm.
with the city, but they do some of the same stuff. Vet care does in our area, and I only think there's one other that's even close enough. And I don't remember who they are off the top, but we've tried and asked for them just because we have to, and we've got
Sure.
nothing.
What about the spay neuter services? Would that kind of fall within this to try and reach out to see if anybody can bring their mobile clinic for
We've
that?
had the mobile unit several times from vet care, right, Glenn? They come up. We actually had them every month. I don't know if they're still doing it, but we had them every month at Hollydale Regional.
But they
right
weren't
next to it.
doing,
What?
were they doing spay and neuter or?
I
Yeah.
don't remember what they were. They had a whole list of stuff, but I don't know. I don't know if we have anyone doing spade and neutering that's specific to our.
'Cause I remember they
contract.
used to way back when, but I think, I mean, as far as those kinds of services, those are the ones that I've been hearing from the community more since I do trap neuter return. And I've looked into for my mom, just getting the paying for spay neuter comes out to like $500-$600. It's crazy, and that's why I keep busy with trap neuter return, because people just let their cats out, and we have this overpopulation of cat problem.
Right. I don't know about that one. I don't know that we want to be in that business. We're trying to serve the big population for the vaccines and stuff like that to
Yeah,
help
that's
them
definitely
along.
helpful.
I don't know that that's not you have to go visit SEAC or you have to go visit the county one that's on Garfield.
Yeah,
They all have that ability.
I
there.
think the Garfield one excludes us for some reason.
I don't know if
That's
you,
my
I think you can
understanding.
go there, but they don't service our area. But
No,
you can go there if you have, or at least I've been there.
Me too.
you have.
Mhm.
Oh, I heard you couldn't.
But I don't know that that's the business we're going to get into as part of this, because we don't have to do that stuff. You have to do some in-house stuff, and we're not going to have the facilities for this. All of their
Mm.
current stuff is outdoor with a pop-up and a table and stuff like that. And I don't think we're not going to have the facilities to do anything else past that point. So
Gotcha.
they might refer people, but we're not going to do that. And so we can maybe ask whoever we have or vet care just to bring some more referral stuff so that they can hand it out to people.
That
but-
would be helpful, because I get questions a lot for affordable spay neuter.
Right, and maybe we can get that from them and see if there is a referral somewhere. But I don't think we're quite the right place for that.
Yeah, that I'll look into it, because I know some parks have the
If
whatever
I
thing
don't,
they
I'm
come.
not the expert on it.
All
Nope.
right, thank you.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's good. It's always good to see people get their vax there. So thanks for that info. And then just regarding for example, some of the other stuff, I mean, I know that the batting cages and soccer, that's obviously it, but like the snack bar, it's same question. Is it mostly the same orgs, or are there other orgs that approach you guys and say, hey, we'd like to do this, or, we'd like to take some,
Both of our snack bars are currently in-house nonprofits, AYSO and the Junior Athletic Association. We did back in the day, pre 2022, have an outside vendor who was there as a for-profit group. They actually owned the El Pollo Loco on State and Firestone. There an El Pollo, or there was an El Pollo near Superior Market, but the same group, they owned it, and they were running it as a for-profit. They actually had a catering truck that went around and sold stuff overall as a park thing. But the facilities at either place aren't conducive for a profitable thing. You can do it with volunteers, but if you're paying a ton of people to be there, if you've been to the snack bar at Southgate Park, it's a triangle of, a couple microwaves, a couple different little things,
right.
a few hot dog rollers or something like that. There's nothing there that says, hey, make me a profit. Other cities have talked McDonald's into coming out for the summer. Lakewood does, and some other cities have other things like that. But besides that, unless you had a giant remodel, there's not a lot there for someone to, I mean, we have people, but unless you have a facility that's going to be built for it, you're not going to do much for a profitable side. So they're not really jumping up and down to be there. I always thought they would. I thought, hey, can we
Well-
get a Taco Bell in here or a, something?
Well, maybe something a little healthier, right? But
No.
I mean, the reason I bring it up is because I kind of see the same thing, right? I see there's maybe an opportunity there, and I've seen some other parks where they have an organization that runs it, and then whatever proceeds come out of there are distributed amongst 5 or 6 other organizations, so that they all benefit from it. So that's the reason I was bringing it up. That maybe exploring some options would be good to benefit more organizations that are within the city, right? I know that AYSO and SGAA provide some good programming, and that's definitely good for them to get that. But I know that there's other orgs in the community that might also benefit from some of those funds.
I think the hours are just so small too. You only have 3 hours maybe on the weekdays and
Yeah.
5 hours on the weekend. So it's really,
It's not even a weekend. It's just a Saturday.
yeah, exactly.
So it's not even the full entire weekend to be able to say it's open,
And is that because of staffing, or why is it?
We-
Because then it's just
Volunteering.
an asset that sort of just sits, right?
Right, it just sits. In the old days, we used to be open 3 o'clock till 10 o'clock every night. But except for the after-school crowd, it's not really the place you come take your family for lunch,
Sure.
Right.
right? It's not it during a weekday. Saturdays, we could make some money, but Saturdays and Sundays when we have tournaments or baseball or something and we're a packed park, you can make that. But what they discovered, in fact, our for-profit one discovered first, was that their sales were not the in-house at the building sales that made them anything. It was the vendors,
Out of the mouth.
the walking vendors,
Mhm.
right? And now with the current laws in the state of California, if you work it right, anyone could be a vendor without the contract. It would cut into everyone's profit. It would be a little crazy out there because you wouldn't know who's who, and the world gets out there, and it's already that way here.
Sure.
We
Okay.
get a lot of that currently.
All right. Well, that's pretty much it with that.
Anybody else?
No,
Okay.
we're good.
Can I get a motion to file and receive?
A motion?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. On to item number 3, review of parks and recreation revenues.
All right, good evening. So just going over revenues, basically the Parks and Rec Department is a general fund department that provides essential services to the community. And while we bring in over $2 million in funds each year through rental facilities and program fees, the expense to actually operate these programs and things and such, they exceed the amount that's actually brought in. So each program, each activity, each thing that we, special event that we have, it costs significantly more money than what's being brought in. So Southgate does a good job of providing the support and prioritizing for Parks and Recreation, and understands that, that's kind of keeping the costs like low or affordable is what helps people that live here or wants, or it assists in making people want to live here, right? Because it's, people are like, oh, okay, nice parks, the costs are, it's affordable, I can take my family. So, it makes it desirable. And the city does a good job of trying to keep its costs low. But we look at into getting sponsors and different things to try to help with that, but it still doesn't, it's just not enough to keep up with the amount of money that's being spent to provide all these programs. In the past years, the city has worked in conjunction with community development in looking into the Quimby fees, and that's basically requiring developers to pay for fees for dedicated park space. But then when COVID hit, that kind of went out the window and it just was never really looked into. And as far as events and programs and things that we do that actually bring in revenue, the only 2 that we have here are basically the carnival, which for the Azalea Festival and 4th of July. And in the past, we've also looked into, I want to say it was 2023 when I first got here, that we were looking into doing a big concert or festival at the park to help generate some funds, but then the person who was supposed to do it became ill, and that never happened as well. So overall, we are a general fund, operations. And while we do a good job at getting grants and things, the grants usually go toward infrastructure and not necessarily for like the maintenance and for programming. So if you guys have any ideas, or community, anybody has ideas about how we can bring in generating events or programs or whatever it is, feel free to share them with us and we'll look into it.
Thank you. Any comments from commissioners?
Can you explain what Quimby fees are,
Yeah, so it's basically,
or why this didn't work out? Because it kind of says that because of COVID.
yeah, so I wasn't here when that happened. Steve might be able to explain that a little more than I can.
Quimby fees are basically a parcel fee on people when they move in. So you say, hey, you're going to build a new apartment building, which means there's going to be 740 new people in our area, right? And part of that process requires them to pay a fee for Parks and Rec. Hey, you're going to impact the Parks and Rec, you're going to need to help us offset that as part of the offset fees, right? There's different versions of, whoa, one of you guys is missing something.
Alexa. Weird.
There's different stuff and little details with the Quimby fee that I don't know all the answers to. That's why community development works on them. But a lot of fees in cities, they have water development fees, they have impact fees. A Quimby kind of falls within those guidelines of life is, hey, you're making an impact on the city. You're going to be expanding the number of people attending our parks or other stuff like that. Part of that, we're going to need something so that when you build this, we get some revenue back in to the city. I don't remember off the top of my head if the Quimby fee is a straight parcel tax that says, hey, everyone owes a little for parks. I think it's more of a new build, new people fee, but I know there's some versions of it that might have some of that others there. I'm not the total expert on Quimby. I knew it at one point, but it's been a while and stuff. But it's one of those. And then, so obviously 2020 hits. They had already started it. Our past director, Joe Perez, over in community development, was working on it. And COVID hits. Everything goes away for a little while, right? By 2021, when we start catching back up into life, 2022, Joe has left. His deputy has left. There's no one who was there who was working on it. And they were short on staff. So we weren't the highest priority in the world. And so they kind of went, let's get other things done and we'll work on that later.
Would it be worth it for us to ask for that to kind of come back on the plate?
I think it would be worth the overall city taking a look to see if that's a worthwhile thing to bring in funding. A lot of cities have Quimby fees.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could do that at the next meeting.
It's not
Yeah, 'cause,
a bad thing.
They're planning
That
on
makes
building that big
sense.
apartment building
Right.
by the school over there.
Right. You get some of that. We need housing, and there are other impacts. We would probably be able to add it to ADU fees, maybe,
Yeah.
right? Because you're making an impact. You're adding 2 more facilities.
Those are not bringing grannies.
Those aren't bringing us anything, but those might be. So is it worth at least the ask of, is it worth it? It's also something that in the end has to be voted in by the public. And we all know that that's not always the favorite thing in life,
Sure.
but sometimes as cities, even as we talked, and I think most of the city might be looking at a utility user tax that most cities have already. Sometimes the residents need to understand that there's connections to all this. If you always say no to everything, your level of service has to go down. It's just part of how life goes.
Yeah.
So we could.
And I think it might be worth also going into something that Commissioner Barron mentioned at this week's council meeting, speaking to other mayors regarding the Olympics coming back, and I know he mentioned that, I think I had heard of one of the swimming programs still being funded by some of the
LA
funding from
84,
the
yeah.
84.
Mhm.
And so maybe, kind of getting in on that, for the upcoming Olympics, and seeing if maybe we can maybe house something or work with something, bring it.
We are. We're working on that already. In fact, Tina and I attended the meeting of the LA 28
That's
Olympic
awesome.
Committee, 2 weeks ago? We met with all the different cities, all the different counties in all of LA County. All 88 cities got together to discuss. And one of the things we brought to the table with partnerships that we've already made with Downey, Pico Rivera, Paramount, yeah, Monterey Park, Bell, uh, all the southeast cities, is we meet on a quarterly basis with them already, but they all said, you know what? We could host one of the Olympic festival villages here at Southgate Park, because none of the other cities have a park big enough to do that. And all the different cities, our original concept was that all the different cities in our area would get together, bus all the people in to Southgate Park to do some of that type of stuff. And we already presented that to the Olympic Committee, and they liked our idea. And so there's going to be meetings every quarter or every something. Right, every quarter, which we're invited to. So we're part of the planning setup for that. And so,
That's awesome. And I mean, hopefully we can, spark interest, and maybe that can bring in sponsors. I think that would be.
and we've already, the other thing we have done is that uh, we've put ourselves on the list as hosts for being able to have practice sites and other things here. We could host some swimming stuff, some other things, basketball, badminton, fencing.
That's
We
awesome.
have the biggest facilities in the area, and there's a ton of smaller countries. We're not, China's probably not, they're going to go pay for some really big, expensive place. But it's like our friends in Downey, they have the Irish swimming team coming. Now, there's currently 2 athletes on that team, but they've
They're
already
coming.
booked lane lines at the Downey pool, right? Part of our thing is we have to consider our residents in this too. I can't give away the whole pool for the month of July. That's just not going to work,
Yeah.
right? But if we can share in that, or if we can help, we can give away daytime use of maybe the auditorium when there's not a whole lot in there for the ping pong team from some countries, or a couple of those, or mix and match with stuff there. So we've filled out the survey, we've turned in all the stuff, and we've said we would be willing to at least look at hosting.
That's great. That's awesome.
We're in that, we are part of that team right now.
Any other comments?
Yeah, what does that look like in terms of, let's say, revenue or some sort of support from the Olympic Committee towards the city?
Yeah, that is going to come, and they don't even know yet. The LA 84 Olympics, just so everyone knows, have 2 major things that they're doing that will benefit life. First thing is they are the first ever no-build Olympics. Every other country that's ever hosted an Olympics has had to build venues
Mhm.
across the country. They're not as big as us most part, but China, Russia, everyone builds something, right? Every venue that will be used is already an existing venue in Southern California or across the country. Softball is going to be in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Soccer is going to spread out up and down the whole state, right? Kayaking's in Hawaii, or surfing was in Hawaii. Kayaking's in Tennessee.
Yeah, Tennessee.
Right? So it's spreading out. So they're not spending any money on building anything. They will remodel a few items, but everyone has a place. Their second thing they're doing is there will be no driving your car to an Olympic event. Every place, Coliseum, the whole thing, you have to be bussed in by the Olympic Committee. So you will find a park and ride, 20 miles away, and you'll hop on a bus. And that's going to be cool too. But to do all of that and anything else, it's either a voluntary thing from a city or a sponsor is paying for it. So they're still working out those details. So we could volunteer to do a festival, and hopefully the Olympics finds sponsors and then provides us with revenue or something to cover the costs and maybe some extra or doing some other stuff for it, and many of those we believe would just be like the LA 84 concept, is that if we hosted a festival, some of that money might trickle down into our youth programming.
That would be great, yeah.
And it wouldn't become general fund money for the city, but it might become our nonprofit specifics, So a lot of balls in the air for LA 84. They got a lot of things to do, but we've got our fingers, on the door frames, and we're pulling to get in a little, and we luckily know. You never think of it, but Parks and Recreation is actually the center of many of the overall events. You don't think of it. Our friend Norma from the County of Los Angeles is hosting vast amounts of the venues, because every beach property, every gym belongs to a Parks and Recreation department for the most part, right? Unless you're at the Forum or at Staples Center, no one's playing basketball somewhere else, or volleyball, or you got to get those. And they may play in the big venues, but someone's got to practice somewhere else, or they've got to go. So Parks and Rec are hosting them all over the county.
Yeah.
Yeah, regarding some of the LA 84 stuff, I know they just released, I think, some new grants. How many of those do you guys pursue on an annual basis?
We've had LA 84 grants from 1984 until now, every year. Swimming lessons, swim team lessons, diving, synchronized swim we had one year. More aquatic space, they seem to be the bigger output for them. We've put in for some of the others. The aquatics is the best build on the whole thing, and so we've gotten a lot of those. Not much on the other ones.
Okay. All right. And so kind of going back to the, opportunities within the park, I know I've seen other parks that have banners. For example, I know at one point, I think the golf course had banners on the fence. There's flagging currently on the trails now, right? Within the park. Is that something that's just done for the companies at no charge, or is there a fee for that for them?
Actually, we do have those. That's actually started with our centennial event. You'll see some out in front of City Hall. At that time, we didn't have the staffing or the know-how to go chase down we didn't have the time to chase it down, right? But we made a deal with a company that's actually based out of New York, where they sell the banner ads, right? They bring in the revenue, but they do all the work. They put up the banners, they sell them, they maintain the whole process, right? And for the centennial, we had a bunch of them all over the city. It's a 3-year contract. Second year, they didn't do as well. I don't know if we're gonna complete the third year. There's a cost factor to them and a maintenance factor that they have to put out for it. They do charge the companies. It went really well on some of them for centennial. Some of the others have come back out, but we have opportunities in there. We could do more sponsorship, but until we get our marketing coordinator on board, we're not ready for that yet. Once we get our marketing coordinator on board and we finally get them involved in other stuff, that might be an area where we move forward on. We definitely have looked at wanting to put banners on the interior trails of the park. If you've seen the black light posts, we have a few banners out in front of the sports center, but we could trail those up and down and make a whole row of Azalea or 5K or other Parks and Rec banners.
Yeah.
Some now.
I mean, that was going to be one of my comments too. I mean, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner, but I think he's talking more like advertising, like on the baseball fences and, you know, like
Yeah, I
like
mean,
you're
that's-
mentioning Taco Bell and Chipotle and all these different banners that can be put up there for a profit. You know, we can sell quarterly fees for putting up banners. You can make on the outfield so that when you're sitting down, you can see these banners with some on posts or something. If putting them on fence is not feasible, you know, we can put them in the air somehow.
Right, and
Along the swim fence, along the
right, we've had
anywhere.
opportunities for some of that. We've given sponsors, allowed sponsors to some of those. A lot of those we had given the opportunity to our nonprofits. And they, at one time back in the day, used to take it and put them on the baseball fences,
I remember that. Yeah,
you know, but that hasn't happened from our nonprofits in a while.
right.
We have actually.
But I mean, to
started that.
generate for the park, I mean, don't give it to nonprofits and just
We
have
have
the
some of
park
that
do it.
now. We have Raising Cane's is becoming a
They're a big
overall
sponsor now.
for us, for both our 5K, for our swim lessons, for our surfing with Santa, and our Easter egg hunt in the water. So we've started some of those, but like I said, when we get a marketing coordinator and we've gotten past the point of getting our other stuff ready,
Yeah.
part of their job will be to open up some of those opportunities for others so that we can look at
I mean, that's all good. We're just giving ideas
Yeah.
of things
Yeah.
that we've seen. So I mean, you go to any ballpark, you see nothing but advertising everywhere on a jersey, on everything, on the baseball.
We could
Well,
just
well,
camp everyone's
on the base
forehead,
pad
but
itself.
You know, yeah, I mean, you know, I think at the end of the day, the more money that comes in, the more that you can provide for the kids, you know, youth and other adults within the community. So I think that that's good. I mean, one of the things that comes to mind, auctioning off
Good
space
joke.
at the pageant of the trees, for example, right? Having a tree where, hey, if you auction or you win this auction, you get space or location for banners here, here, and here, for example, or something like that. You know, I mean, I think just brainstorming and coming up with some ideas can definitely help bring in a bit more money. I understand that, you know, it's a service, right? The Parks and Rec Department is a service to the community, but the closer that we can get to covering some of those costs, I think there's more that can be done for just everyone in general in the community. So I think that would be it, including perhaps even outsourcing some of the stuff that, you know, maybe somebody else can do cheaper than staff or than what's currently being done, and you get some savings there as well. You know, so just different things that can go into play.
we've
I
seen
think your
some-
marketing team will have some really good ideas.
We've seen some of that as you do outsourcing. In every other community I've seen it, it starts off great for about 6 months and it goes way downhill because they don't have the commitment we do.
No,
We work here, we live here, you know.
Sure. I
They
mean, that's
don't-
always a factor.
All throughout, you know, the thing we talk to other cities, they outsource different.
we could put
Staff and different things.
logos all over Glenn's team,
What?
sponsored by Chipotle. You know, all their vests that they
we
walk around the
could-
park
yeah,
with.
they-
You know,
Eh,
And then he's
Generate
got
some good money right there,
He's got a
don't he?
Chipotle burrito. In his
walking
hand, right?
advertisements.
all right.
All right,
All
thank
right,
you,
so, yeah.
everybody. Do we get a motion to file, receive and
s-
file?
I so move.
A second.
Okay, can I get a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Okay, item number 4, Park Facility Maintenance Division Annual Report.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'll quickly give you some highlights of the report. I hope you all had an opportunity to review it. See, over the past year, the Parks Facility, I wouldn't call it division, I have my senior staff member write this for me, but that section successfully hosted a variety of organized events and throughout the year, city-sponsored events and community-focused events. We invested in a variety of new disinfecting equipment. We hired a new park facility maintenance worker, and he is primarily working the weekends. Really turned out to be a critical staff member. Additionally, we installed privacy walls at 2 of our parks, State Street Park and Cesar Chavez Parks along Southern Avenue, to allow us to leave the restroom open in an open position to address safety concerns. The community service worker program with 15 staff members really helps them get their facilities open and running. And we plan on expanding the number of folks volunteering and adding more to grounds maintenance during the summertime to assist with trash removal. And with that, I'm more than happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you, Glenn. Commissioners, any comments?
And before you ask, I got an addition to his, just so the commission is aware. Actually, first question is, how many of you guys have been to our new Hollydale Community Park setup? Right? As you go there, you may notice that the outdoor restrooms are a little different in life. Okay? We, I think, affectionately call it the new saloon door look
Mhm.
in life. Is one of our bigger problems maintenance-wise we've had, and as was mentioned earlier, is homeless in our bathrooms, right? And a lot of our single-use bathrooms, which would be a bathroom with just one toilet, a sink, or whatever in it, right? Are for many years, our homeless would come in, lock themselves in, because that's what you do in those, right? You lock the door, and then that becomes theirs till they sleep off what's ever happening in life, right? Or other people would be doing other things in there. We can all use our imagination, right? But be happening in these facilities. And then our staff would come in and they would open the door and there's graffiti, there's whatever on the places. And it becomes a giant problem because the residents call and say, hey, we can't get into the bathroom. The bathrooms are never open. Well, we open them in the morning. It's just the homeless guys asleep in there, right? So we now have what we call a saloon door concept that we've now made for all of our single-use bathrooms. And it basically has a partition door, as you would go into a normal bathroom, that covers the main entrance to the restroom. If you've been to Hollydale, it's the first time we've used it. We were a little worried. It seems to be very successful. You can go in, you can shut the door. It's just the little latch like you would into a stall of a bathroom, right? The door is there, but there's a gap on the bottom and a gap on the top. And so you're not as comfortable sleeping in there. If we come up and you're knocking and someone's like, hey, you can kind of tell there's someone else in there. The whole thing, we're trying to put up some privacy walls to make sure it's not a viewable thing. But we think it helps with that maintenance aspect of it, helps keeping out, those making deals inside of it. It's not just a place to hang out anymore. And so far at Hollydale, it's been very successful. We haven't received any complaints. You think at first we might get complaints, but everyone seems to do it. So we've kind of started to adopt it as our new standard across the parks. If it's a single-use restroom, the Walnut Street one is not, but if it's a single-use restroom, we're putting that in to kind of help us discourage others from using it for other things besides using the restroom.
How's the sink working out too? Has it kept up
Yeah,
well outside?
it's been fine out there. Haven't had any problem. I think our neighbors at Hollydale Community like their park so much, they're not going to let anyone screw with it.
That's awesome.
We've had staffing there from 3 to 8 on a regular basis, so that helps. But they've told us, and the neighbors have told us, no. If someone else is, the neighbors are chasing them. We're not calling the cops. They're like, nah, get out.
I think they heard our mayor tell them, this is your park, you got to take care of it because we're not going to get another one anytime soon.
And they've taken that to heart. We were, as those who were there for the opening, it packed up. We had, long lines of people, and it's still getting a lot of use every day, every night. And so as that goes, and summer hits, we haven't even hit summer. As that goes, we expect them to kind of protect their park.
That's great.
I'm sure we'll have to clean up more barbecues and just use issues, but I'd rather clean those up than homeless
Very true.
Mhm.
graffiti, homeless encampment, other things. Because one leads to more.
Yeah.
It just does. You leave a park and abandon it to others, they will find other uses for it. But I want to tell you about the restrooms in case someone asks you as commissioners, there's a reason for it.
So is there so that's only for the single one?
Right,
single-use one.
single-use restroom.
Any
So-
new restrooms planned for development that can be done that way, or?
Actually, Circle Park, the current single-use restrooms over there are going to be converted over to that. In Hollydale, no.
Urban Orchard.
Urban Orchard is, we're working with the contractor. It wasn't in the original plans, but we're working with the contractor to convert those into the same thing.
Awesome. That's
Just
great.
as a, basically comes a standard. And then we've already started on, as Glenn March mentioned in his report, working on that for both the State Street and Cesar Chavez parks along Southern Avenue. Those are some of our worst ones where we get the most issues, because a lot of people hang out there either to homeless or sell drugs or do something. With that in mind, we've put up privacy walls already, and then we're working on getting what we call the saloon door look on it. And once we put those in, we're hoping we'll never get rid of all the issues, but we're hoping that will do better.
That's awesome.
Any other comments? Okay. Not, can I get a motion to receive and file?
Make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Number 5, proposed program fees for 25-26.
All right, as I said before, this is another one of those yearly setups we do. We have the commission look with us at the fees that we charge for programming, for other things, not for rentals, because that actually goes to the city council, but for all the different things that you see in this report. We bring it every year. Most of the time, we recommend to keep up with inflation, right? As Tina noted in her report, we're not a for-profit, we're not a revenue-based concept in life, right? We try to provide services that we can get the most kids out for without breaking the city's bank, but trying to do both, right? We want to cover what we can and what we think is fair for the residents, but not overdo it. If you price yourself out of the market, we're going to have some great facilities with no one using them, right? That's not our problem now. We have a lot of facilities with everyone using them, but normal, as it says in here, the year-to-date cost of living is 3.4%, right about there for that year, right? Normally with that and the minimum wage increase, I would always recommend that we cover those and, move the cost of every program we have up. But this year, part of the city's updates for the whole finance department is to include a convenience fee on all credit card things, 3.5%. Okay? Parks for years had run without one because we have kind of a separate overall finance structure in the park, and then we put our money into the city. Ours is separate, and so we never charged an overall convenience fee. Well, we're now doing it across the board for the whole city. So that's going to basically raise everyone's fees 3.5%. It's just going to happen across the board. And since now a vast majority of our residents pay with credit cards, years ago it was cash. Our community didn't carry a lot of credit cards. It's changed. Now it's credit cards or some other kind of payment system, but cash is not what we do. We do credit cards. And so almost everyone's going to incur the 3.5%. We didn't feel it was fair or would help us maintain services if we added another 3.5% to that. So for this year, our recommendation is to leave everything basically alone, same fees as the current year, and then look at upgrading fees after that point. Now, part of our overall exchange is going to cost us some money when we go to the convenience fee, and today is actually the first day of that convenience fee, the 3.5% for the Parks and Recreation Department. But part of what we had to do to get to that point is that we had to go out and cancel every sports center membership, of which there was close to 4,000 of, and then re-enroll everyone. And so there will be some significant costs to us to start that we'll lose to move up to this fee base into this incremental fee thing. And so that, along with other things, we're going to have to try to win back our base of people. And to your point of trying to keep some revenues in, part of what goes with the overall membership fee is that you come and you join LA Fitness, right? And you're working out solidly for 2 months, and then you don't work out solidly for month 3, and by month 5, you forget where the gym is, right? But what else you forgot is that your payment is monthly automatic, and you keep paying us, right? And so a lot of our, we get a ton of our people, but a lot of the 4,000 people are not there every month. And so, but once you cancel them, they're not going to join back up because they remember they didn't come every day. So we'll lose some of that funding until we rebuild our base back up, and that will take a while. So that's our recommendation across the board. We didn't make no changes in it, I think, at all. And unless you have any concepts that we need to raise or lower something, usually not lower, but if you think of one of these that are like, hey, we really, really, really should raise this, we're kind of at that point of we want to keep there. And we can mid-year, not just the April, but we can, as we look at things, if life gets way too expensive, we can raise some of those fees. But usually we try to keep within the concepts we build in April.
Do you get any complaints about the fees, or do you offer, and if you do you offer any financial assistance programs or help?
2 answers. We're actually reasonably low for fees. We're not too high. We're reasonable. We fall in with most of our neighbors in fees. We're definitely low in some areas and a tad high in the adult sports areas. Our youth fees, as a city, the encouragement has always been try to keep our youth fees low. Just we'd rather have kids playing than not playing just because we charge them $5 more, because we also have a large group of residents here who have multiple children, and it's not fair that traditionally the boys get to play and the girls don't, or something like that. So you keep the fees down, everyone gets to play, right? Hopefully a lot of that's changing, but I do know that used to be a concept in the area.
Yeah.
Right. And so as you do that, you keep the fees low enough so everyone can join in and do stuff. But as Tina noted in her report, that means we don't cover costs. That's not part of what we look at doing. We want to just involve as many people as we can. But, like you said, we get a few. And then as part of your duties and part of our stuff is at times when we find residents who are like, hey, I can't afford this, we do have some scholarship opportunities through our Friends of Southgate Park that we
Yeah.
do. Every year we do some and we supply it, and, not just special events and stuff like that, but we do give some scholarships, especially if it's we get some school calls or something like that of, hey, this family needs some of that.
No, that's good to know. And I was already aware. I was kind of speaking to comments I remember hearing a couple years ago during the whole vendors law, that somebody made a comment about our park fees being high compared to, I think one of the speaker was from Cudahy, and when I looked at their programs, they didn't even have any. So
You would probably be surprised if you took a survey of the literally surrounding cities around here. We offer so much more as a general rule across the board. They all might have some things, but it's like we for a longest time averaged 58 teams a season for our
Yeah.
adult softball leagues. And then, I get calls from other cities, even the bigger cities, who are like, no, we have adult softball. We have 6 teams. That's
Cool.
not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same across the board. Oh, we have youth Cudahy. We have youth soccer leagues, right? We have 28, teams total. Okay, we have 1,200 kids, playing in all these divisions. And they're like, hey, yeah, no, we've got the 3 to 5 and the 6 to 10, and we have 6 teams in each. It's not the same. So we don't feel like it all the time, but we're the bigger city in a lot of this stuff, just
Yeah.
out of even according to Norwalk and Downey, we provide, I believe we provide significantly more programs than either of those areas.
Yeah. For sure.
No, we do a good job.
Comment on that or question, actually, with some of the like high demand classes, do you like use like a dynamic pricing for those? So some of them that may have a high demand, maybe the price goes up a little bit to try to capture a little more revenue, and at the same time, I guess not discourage people, but lessen that demand.
I think that concept is kind of reversed from our council concept. In fact, I believe Tina told me that at the last council meeting, the council are asking us more, how do we provide it free to the kids?
Hmm.
They don't want.
And for the kids, I mean, that'd be good. What about for adult classes though? Like if that can be maybe considered, I guess, for some of the adult programming.
As I noted, we get a lot of impact, especially in the sports center for our adults on memberships and stuff like that. But they're already more of a cost covering concept on the adult side of it.
Mm.
And I said our softball, baseball, basketball leagues are actually higher than the surrounding areas. So we're balancing that out. If you actually looked at last year's report, that was the one area we didn't move up because we're actually starting to lose teams to
Mm.
other places.
Mhm.
So there's that balance. I'm one who firmly believes, yes, youth should be our priority, but unless you give the adults somewhere to play too, you're not going to get the kids because they're going to go somewhere else. I think you need to make a whole community. You got to give the adults somewhere to do stuff, the teens and the kids.
Sure. Okay.
Just my only comment is the golf fees reasonable? They seem a little low. I mean, super low. I mean, have you guys looked at those fees and see if there's a way to generate a little bit more money on the golfing?
No, I think when they.
It's not. I know it's only 9
compared
holes. I know
to-
it's not world class, but
Right, I
like
think when-
$10.
No, I think that they did look at some of those fees and compare them to like Downey and some of the surrounding areas that have golf courses. And I think we're maybe a little on the low side, but we're not too far off.
Yeah. Okay.
We're a
Good, yeah.
little low, and I think part of our concept on that is
One of the things to keep in mind is that it's a par 3 golf course. There's not too many of those, and most of our surrounding golf courses are full-on 18-hole
Right, right.
courses.
Yeah.
That's
So
what I'm saying.
you gotta
I know it's a small 9-hole, but I mean, there's a lot of maintenance that goes into
I think
keep-
Bell Gardens
keeping
is
that-
probably
keeping
the
that there,
only.
and at
Bell
that
Gardens
is
price,
the
it just
only-
seems low.
Yeah.
you're
other
correct
parts
on
of it.
that. And our other thing is that for a long time, we were really low on golf attendance. And so one of the things we want to do, and actually we've done in the last year, is we significantly increased the golf attendance, right? And
Right.
part of that's fees. And what you got to do is you got to bring them in the lower fees, and then you can hook them because they want to play. And then we can keep
Yeah.
them, and then we can slowly build them up.
So that's what I'm saying. So you kind of got them in now. So
Right.
you
Now
know,
we need to look at
if,
that, but
a couple of bucks here, it pays off in the long run.
right. And maybe as we look at that, we can look at, maybe somewhere after summer,
Yeah.
pulling them back up and maybe looking at what the fees across the board are at, Bell Gardens. We work with Liz from Bell Gardens on a regular basis. She's the director over there. So, we keep current with each other. And so that might be a question.
Do the high schools here around here have golf programs?
Yes.
We do. And they play at our park.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought I saw a sign at Southeast High saying
Yeah.
they did. That's
Mhm.
good.
All right. Thank you. Can I get a motion to receive and file?
A motion?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Number 6, procuring shade for diamonds 9 and 10, oral report.
Okay, so as far as the shades go, as Mr. Dominguez mentioned, that we were able to secure a substantial amount of money from the CDBG funds. And so we were able to look into utilizing that money. And so currently our recreation manager, James Markel, he is doing some research and trying to get some quotes to be able to do provide shade structures to our dugouts and bleacher area to diamonds 9 and 10, as well as the large quad. Large quad's a little different just because there's some areas, I think it's one of the diamonds that's near the golf course where you have like the shade already provided there. So we're just trying to figure out how to do it and trying to figure out what's going to work best and how we can best utilize the money so we can provide shading for not just diamonds 9 and 10, but for the large quad as well. So we're actually really excited about that and hopeful that that project will be complete by the end of the year.
Nice.
Any comments?
No, just I think that Steve was ready with those numbers when the commission was ready to give some money, and I think that was a big portion of why the Parks and Rec Department was able to secure that money, because they wanted shovel-ready projects, and Steve had a list of it. So I'm glad that that was something. I think that should definitely be something to have ready, because there were a lot of money that they were going to allocate other places, and again, Steve was ready to pull the trigger on that. So I'm glad that that was able to take place, and I look forward to seeing what the outcome and what it looks like at the end of the day.
And as Mr. Dominguez noted, we got over $1 million in funding, just so you guys know as a commission. We also got money, that's not part of this report, is it?
No.
I don't want to step.
You can brag a little bit, Steve.
We got some money for, first of all, in the end, it ended up being about 1.8 million. 700,000 of that was for the street in front of Hollydale Community, right? Which they gave to us, but to Public Works to redo the street there. We got, I don't know the numbers, but to redo the cabinetry in the girls' clubhouse. That stuff was original product there from 1964. 54. So we're finally getting new cabinets and countertops in the girls' clubhouse.
It's like 40,000.
We're getting shade structures on the baseball diamonds. We're going to be able to either replace the roofs or update Boy Scout huts, either change and do some other
Recreation
stuff.
huts.
Recreation huts in the Boy Scout area. And
The swim stadiums, the scoreboard, right?
Scoreboard.
yeah, and we got money to pay for the scoreboard at the swim stadium. There was something else.
The
too.
gym
And the
divider.
gym.
right?
Oh, yeah.
The gym
And the
divider.
gym.
Someone's got this down.
Yeah.
And a gym divider. So
I think you should just
literally,
give the report.
we didn't, we weren't even on their agenda.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of walked away with all of it. So it went well for us, but we are actually out pricing all those things now. So this isn't a, hey, in 3 years, this is a, hey, in the next, hopefully,
Within by the end of the year, most of these projects will all be completed
or at least started.
or started. Yeah.
But that's not an easy process, just so the commission understands that we may got the money, but to spend that type of money
Mhm.
takes a lot of
Takes a
staff
lot.
time.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and then you got to go through all the hoops. CDBG money, while great, is a lot of paperwork, and the cost for everything is a lot more than you think it is, because there's a ton of federal requirements on it. And I think I've told this once, but I once did a project at the park where I put the fences on diamonds 5 and 8 for those who have been there. I did that for $12,000 in general fund money. The next year, they asked me to put fences on 6 and 7, right? Because I used CDBG money, the cost went up from what should have been $18,000 to $60,000.
Damn.
Wasn't a cost because steel got, it's all because of the paperwork. So that's what happens to these things as you meld into the CDBG world. There's so much paperwork, they actually have to hire people to do it. And so that's part of our thing. Many of my staff are learning the process. They're going to go through this. We've already met with community development and their CDBG coordinator to ask them about steps. I've done it for years, but the staff's taking this on themselves, so. Oh, we got one more. We got a new playground.
Tot
Yeah,
lot,
we got a whole new playground at
the tot lot,
Hollydale
Hollydale.
Regional Tot Lot, the Gardendale Tot Lot, yeah, to replace the whole thing.
The one I complained about, the coyote poop.
Well, you guys all told us about this at the last meeting, right? You asked about shade, you asked about playgrounds, you asked about something else, and we went out
You
and
guys
found
are
the money.
listening. Yeah,
So-
thank you for that. Now, when the kids are playing, the little ones are out in field 9 and 10 this summer, and the parents are, oh, there's no shade. No, there's gonna be shade now.
Right.
We get some positive feedback and let them know now that
Right,
that's gonna
we're
be in the
working
works.
on
Working
it.
That
on
they're
it.
working
It's
on
gonna-
it.
It's a process, but
Right,
yeah.
right. But at least the ball's rolling now, so that's
Yeah.
good. So we can let the parents know.
We're working on it.
But thank you. Thank you.
9 and 10 are the priority of the,
Right.
of the,
They're
of
the
the 6
priority.
fields. If for some reason the funding doesn't stretch to where it is, 9
9
and
and
10.
10, we're
9
gonna,
and 10 will be first. The large quad for what we can do will be the rest.
Mhm.
thank you.
It'll be the same shades as the middle, right? Or something different.
Depending on the location, there's certain areas require certain things, and depending on how many feet the dugouts are to where, yeah, so there's.
And
they're-
what's underneath them. So a
Right.
lot of this, it will be dependent on many factors. We give prices, but we're not quite sure what's underneath the world.
It would be great if everything would just be just like the small quad, but unfortunately, the
Yeah.
dimensions of everything and the way it all is, we've already had to look into, okay, that will work for that one, but it won't work for this one, and that's why it's taking a little longer because you have to kind of piece everything together and make sure you have what's going to work.
Okay,
And then we
sounds
have
good.
to bid it.
Mhm.
And so there's process that goes. So
Mhm.
it's not going to be a quick thing. We do have the money. It's going to take a while.
Good, good. Okay, can I get a motion to receive and file?
Make a motion.
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. Number 7, oral report regarding commissioner update requests.
So I know there was some requests regarding the surveys. Unfortunately, the survey that we did for Winter Wonderland, we were unable to get any of the data from the staff that actually utilized their account to create the survey. When I asked after the meeting, I said, hey, I need you to give me that data so I can present it, and tried to log back in, and they were locked out of their account. So it took literally months to get, or a little over a month for them to get back into it. I had to go through all this stuff with Google, trying to recover it. Couldn't happen. Had to create a whole new account because I had already developed a survey for like the splash pad information and just a survey for the community to see like what do people want, right? Because that's what the request was. And so it's been a while, and finally got back into, got a new account. Put a whole thing together. We had the QR code ready to go. And then when we went to go test it, it didn't work. So it wasn't the same process, but it was a similar type of process where with her account, had to redo it. We finally got it out. And yesterday the survey we sent it out on social media. Staff are sending it out to all of our members as well. So if you go to our social media, you could there's the link tree that's in there. You can click on it. I did ask them to tag you in it. I guess the problem that we're having with social media is whoever created the account or when it was created, they have Instagram as the main account, and Facebook, it just, whatever goes on Instagram automatically goes to Facebook. So they're not able to tag from Facebook.
Gotcha.
And that's the issue they're having. But if you can get it and share it onto your post. So if you just go on the thing, click on it and share to your own page, you can do that. It's just they can't tag you in it. Makes sense. So, and in 24 hours, they got 22 surveys back already. So hopefully we're just going to keep on putting it up on our story and keep it going. And it'll end on May 1st. So that way, by the time the next meeting comes around, I'll be able to have data for you. So see what people want, see what the community says. But yeah. And then one more thing, I know one of the other requests in the past was about batting cages. I think you brought it about batting cages.
yeah.
So we had a meeting with TO 5 about that. They are in the process. They actually spoke with the people who run the Montebello batting cages for City of Montebello, because they're just having a lot of problems trying to fix them and trying to figure out what it was. So they have gotten the ball started rolling on their end to have some people come out and help them. And it looks like they're going to be purchasing new ones, but they're just trying to make sure they have funding and such to do so. So soon those should be up and running a little bit more smoother. They actually changed the process. I guess before they were explaining they had the coins. You put the coins in. Now they switched over to a little card reader. So kind of like when you go to Chuck E. Cheese or whatever now, most of them are not tokens anymore. Most of them are those little card readers. So they started with that, and they are, like I said, looking into getting some new machines because their machines, they said, they're just too old. So.
Yeah, I will miss them. They get stuck a lot.
I won't miss them.
We did. We had Nikki went out there with her son after we had spoken about it to go test them all out and to see. And she was, this one works, that one works. I think she said the only one who didn't work was the 80-mile-an-hour one. But little by little, they've been trying to do things to fix them. So.
Good. Okay, good.
Okay.
Yeah, I just, regarding the surveys, I think that, I mean, it's great that they're out there, and I know that sometimes there's, technical difficulties or not. Is there like an option on the app where maybe a survey can be either taken for people that are on the app? Is that something that's a possibility? Maybe
I'd have to ask.
just to kind of capture, because I know that there's people that use the app a lot. Maybe there are some that are better like in person or at different events, but just to be able to capture, input. Mostly all organizations who provide a service or product have some sort of feedback to be able to improve upon the services or the product that is put out there. And I think that, hearing from the community is definitely something that can help improve that. Either the app and again, other events that are there. I mean, I know that I've mentioned this before, but I'd like to be out there at some of the events, and I'd be more than happy to kind of have a QR code and just tell people, like, scan it here, let us know what you think. Maybe at the sports center, have a QR code, possibly throughout the park. We don't have to get fancy with it, but maybe like some printouts, laminate them and put them up somewhere.
We are going to be doing that as well.
Yeah, you did
So
that
we-
Winter Wonderland, no?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
We actually had that.
Yeah, I'm
there.
sure you're going to get positive
yes.
feedback on that one,
So,
but
Yeah.
I think
So
that would
we
work.
will be putting some at the sports center and some up at the girls clubhouse in different locations so that people can just scan them.
Yeah. And regarding the survey, can you guys share the questions that are being asked? Are they more like generic questions in general, or are they specific to programming?
They are no, they're generic. Well, one of the first questions is just like how often do you visit the park?
Mhm.
Because if you have people taking that, I just want to know more or less, are these people who utilize our parks regularly, or is it somebody who comes twice a year? And so that, and then it asks like, okay, well, which parks do you visit? So we kind of have an idea of that. And then it asks about what amenities would you like to see upgraded at the park? So there, and then it says like list the amenities, the top 3 amenities that you would like to see in the order of your priority. Just so we can get a little bit of feedback, and mostly because in the last couple of meetings from Mr. Dominguez and some of you guys were saying about, people want this, people want that. So let's see what the people want.
Yeah, that's good. I think that'll definitely help. And is there a number, for example, based on your previous outreach, right? Is there a number that you guys are shooting for or are expecting more or less, given that, we have a community of over 100,000? I mean, is there, I'm not going to say, hey, there should be at least 20,000 or whatever, but is there a number that maybe you have in mind that you might hit?
Honestly, we really don't know, because for me, this is the first time we've ever put something out like this. I don't know if they've done it prior to.
Our past experience has been, we used to do in-house survey for every program.
Mm-hmm.
Last class for everything except for swimming because they got wet. We did, if you were basketball fundamentals, we gave the parents a survey thing, and there'd be 15, 20 kids. We get 5 of them back, right? And pom-poms and cheerleading, and
Sure.
you can pass them, you get a percentage back. In today's electronic age, there's hope that we'll get more, because more can scan the QR code and go like this while they're watching their kid and they're not watching their kid, and they can
Mhm.
do a little more for it.
Yeah.
We can get that. So we're kind of newer at that point. We'll probably go out and encourage all of our programs, to share that to do that.
Yeah.
We're going to have you model throughout the
Hey, I'll be the van
Tiny
right
tot.
here.
And we try to make it simple, so a lot of them are just like fill in the
Quick,
bubble.
right, right.
Or that's what I said, one of them is like, okay, prioritize your top 3, and then at the end, it gives them the option to, like, if you have any other ideas, suggestions, whatever, that they can leave their comments. But we try to make it as simple, because I notice when sometimes the surveys are too long or too
Yeah.
much, where they have to.
You just-
Yeah, no one wants to do
Exactly.
those,
They don't
right?
have to-
I ain't
Yeah,
doing
it's just
that.
like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
So we try to make it as simple, and then it, based off of this one, because it's the first one we do, we'll kind of have an idea, and if there's more we do in the future, we'll know more or less, and kind of have an idea of what to anticipate.
I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah.
24 hours, 22 hours, like, okay.
Surveys,
that's good.
surveys are like well and good, but it's like, what are you trying to get out of it is the main thing.
Well-
who you giving the surveys to? I mean, if you're giving surveys to people that are already at the park, I mean, it's like, okay, you're already at the park, and is your questions directed to the people that are at the park, and what are they getting out of the park? I mean, one of your questions is how often you visit the park, right? And if it's a low number, why aren't they coming to the park? And we trying to get to the people that are not coming to the park, and how do we get them to the park?
Right.
There's,
So it is, so that's
there-
why anybody, I mean, even if you don't come to the park, you can still say,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
because it'll ask, like, one of the questions too is, what
But-
programs and services do you utilize? Is it fitness, the senior center, the
Right.
swimming pool, like, what, just so we can get an idea of what.
but what I'm saying is how are we getting to those people, and what are we getting out of it from those people? And again, if it's a survey, is there an incentive behind the survey? Most people, like, when you take a survey, you'll take the survey, you get 10% off of something, right?
Mhm.
Is there a incentive behind the survey? And is there, I mean, what's going to make the average person who doesn't go to the park want to take the survey? You know what I mean, most of us here, we're like, cool, yeah, take a survey because we all care. But I mean, of the millions of people that live in Southgate, what's the incentive for them to take this survey? And because those are people you want to get out of it, the people that are at the park, most of them are just, they know what they're enjoying at the park, they know what they're doing at the park. But the people that aren't at the park and don't see this survey, those are people we want to get, right? We want to get the people that, why aren't you coming to the park? What is it about the park that you don't enjoy? Is it, I can't find a parking spot? Is it, what
Right.
what is the main thing that keeps you away from the park?
I think this survey specifically was about park improvement steps to find out what people want. So for this survey, trying to figure out if you're telling, if you don't go to the park, when you take the survey and you're telling me I want this, you don't even know, but you don't even know what's there. So that's why this one specifically was about park improvement. How can we improve the park? What is it we need? And I know that, that's why I guess it was a little bit more interest of finding out, do you come to the park? What parks do you visit? And so just so we have an idea with that, and then how can we make this park better for you? What is it that we can provide to make this park better for you?
And it doesn't,
Okay.
I'm looking at it right now and it doesn't look very long. Like,
No,
why
it's
do
not
you
that many
attend the
questions.
park? What type
It's
of
just simple, but
amenities
just
do
kind of
you
get ideas of
see?
how do we improve the park? But if you don't come to the park, it's going to be a lot more difficult for you to say how you can improve it when you're not there to know what the improvements are. So
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, but it's
Yeah.
not, in this case, it's not the type of survey that we're trying to find out, why don't you come to our park? It's
Yeah.
for those of you who do come,
What's
how
up?
can
I
we,
mean,
how can
What are we doing right and
all
what,
of us
and what can we
are,
change?
are
basically?
on some kind of, we buy things online all the time, right? And every single purchase you buy has some kind of survey associated with it, right? And there's always an incentive. And I mean, 90% of the time, I do not fill out the survey. I just skip or delete or whatever it is. So
Right.
what are we doing to get people to fill out the survey is what I'm saying. Because most people are just not going to do it.
Mhm.
I mean, as much as we care or whatever, they're just like, it's okay.
We'll waive
I
the
don't waste my
convenience
time.
fee if you take the survey.
What?
We'll waive the convenience fee if
convenience
you take the survey. Yeah.
Hey,
I mean,
Either
there's
that
something,
or
that's exactly what I'm saying. There's something that we have to do to incentivize it because some people are just not into it, or they're like,
We-
or
we
paranoid.
used
They're
to-
like, if I fill out the survey, you're going to get all my information, and I don't know. Yeah, don't hack me or something like that. I don't want to be hacked, so I'm not going to fill out the survey.
I mean, luckily for
So-
this one, you don't have to answer any information at all. You're
Right, it's just
literally-
questions. That's what it
literally,
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I understand what you're saying. It makes
So people are
Yeah.
paranoid, even if you don't fill out the information. As you
Yeah.
feel, so as soon as you log into something, it just
Yeah.
appears
You got
somehow.
myself.
Yeah, you have all this information all of a sudden that pops out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not being negative about it. I'm just trying to give you some food for thought so you can figure out who we're trying to get at with this survey and how do we get the most out of it, and
Right.
are we getting the information that we want out of it? Because I mean, if you're dealing with the people that are already at the park and they're already enjoying the park and they're doing stuff, all you're going to get is a lot of yays and thumbs
Yay,
up and all
thumbs
this
up,
kind of
good
stuff, right?
job, type of
We
But,
like
you know,
that though.
Yeah,
Yeah, come
but
on.
but you want the negative stuff is what I'm saying.
We-
You
we- we
you
get
really
the
really
other
want the
side
negative
already.
stuff.
Oh yeah, we got to get everything. But and I think to Alan's point, it kind of goes back to the question that we were asking before about social media. How are they, making the outreach? Some of the senior citizens may not have, and so that's the challenge, right? Finding the platforms and the channels by which you'll reach these people
Right.
to get that info. And to Alan's point, there's got to be maybe some incentive, and like I said, maybe the convenience fee, or come check out a class for free, or something. I don't know. I mean, there's just got to be a lot of things to think about, but obviously that's the challenge, I think.
Yeah. You just want to make sure we get the feedback because, I mean, again, all of us here are just so supportive of it, and so we all think so positive. But I'm just trying to look on the other side, and trying to play devil's advocate and say, okay, what stuff are people not wanting to do? And if I was this other person, why wouldn't I want to fill out the survey? Why would I care about filling out the survey?
That is a good question for seniors. How are you guys going to do that?
Well, I mean, most of the seniors at the center, they actually have phones, they have cell phones, and we actually have technology classes that they offer, like different things where they go over stuff with them. So we have staff that are there that can assist them in doing it, or we can print it out. It's not that we can't do a hard copy one, 'cause we
Mhm.
can.
Yeah.
We can do a hard copy and just print it out for them there. But primarily we were trying to use, it's easier when we're doing it through if everyone's doing it through
Right. To
the,
keep
the
like,
survey, just because when it comes down to all of the numbers, I don't have to sit there and tally everything up.
Yeah.
It does it all for you, so it gives you all the numbers. It makes things just a lot easier and smoother. It gives you the whole pie chart. It gives you there's better figures that
Mhm.
way.
I figure it's less
But
trash
the-
too. Like I know you were mentioning how you would give the surveys after classes, and I imagine if you're only getting 5 back, the other
All
10 are
those-
probably
Yeah.
on the floor somewhere.
Right,
But
yeah, so that's what we happen. A couple notes for the commission though, and so we understand. While Southgate has an app, the Parks and Recreation Department doesn't run it, which is actually not normal. Most cities have a lot of input from their Parks and Rec. Ours is really run by our Public Works Department and in part admin, but a lot of it was based on a maintenance concept of how do we get, and Commissioner Liz has brought this up a couple times, is that, hey, I take the photo of the graffiti, I get that. It was based more on that than it was on, universal communication with the residents. We're hoping to do that, but as Commissioner Palaio says, like more than once, it's, hey, hey, we can put that on that. We don't control that part. It's really controlled by Public Works, and us and Public Works are not the same. We love them, but we're definitely
Yeah, there's some issues with the new app. I get things from the street that should be for the street department. So there's some bugs that need to be worked out on it. But when it comes to a park issue, we get all those. It goes to both the supervisors and myself, and we deal with them immediately. Or if it's related to something that's overseen by General Maintenance Public Works, then we'll forward that request to them.
right. But it's just more of an information knowledge for the commission is, while we would love to use the app for different things, it's not ours. And it's not really set up that Tina can get in and shove the survey on there or anyone else. It's set up for other things. And we were not the brainchild of it because we would make it much more fun. That's just who we are. But I wanted you guys to know that, it's a good app. It works for a bunch of things, but it's not a Parks and Rec app. Just
Yeah.
so you know.
Yeah. Okay. So just kind of some ideas that just popped in. Maybe like a coffee at the park, like they've been doing coffee with the cop and something like that. Maybe something like that to draw some people in. Each instructor can maybe have a survey at the end of their class to evaluate themselves and the class, and maybe even the magazine. The magazine can
Yeah.
have the stuff
So-
there. That way, it goes out to people that may not attend the park,
Yeah.
but get the magazine as well. So just some ideas. I think that, that information is going to be valuable in the time to come.
Is there a completed survey screen at the end?
Is there what?
Does it say that completed the survey at the end of completing the survey? There's a screen that says a survey was completed.
Uh-huh.
So one thing you can do too is set up a booth, let's say, outside the sports center. And I mean, I've gone to baseball games or whatever, and they always have a booth, and they say, if you complete the survey,
Get
we'll,
this little
and
swag or
they'll,
something.
yeah, they'll give you a swag, right? So you can give a coupon off, like we're saying, for, like we said, the service fee or free class or 10% off of something. You can just, if they've completed right in front of your face, just give them a coupon. Say, okay, here, thanks for completing the survey. Here's a coupon. They can use it for the next time they sign up for something. And most people are like, cool, I get a free class. Cool, I'll take the survey. No big deal. So
Yeah.
just little incentives.
Absolutely. And then, one more thing I just thought of. What about the partners, the other organizations that conduct stuff like AYSO, for example, SO5 and SGJA and all of the other ones, the swim one? Is it possible to have them conduct something so that we also get that information and kind of get an idea of how they're doing and what they're offering as well?
You mean specifically survey for their program?
Yeah, for their programming, basically, something, to let us know, because again, the idea here is to get feedback to be able to continue providing the service, and if there's improvement to be made, provide an even better service. And I think that all across the board, I think that would be something to explore.
Right, and we could encourage our partners to do
Yeah, we
something
can't-
like that.
we
We
can't
we
force
wouldn't
them.
be demanding that of them on anything, because we want to keep that separation of nonprofit from a city government. And it's part of what we've, made sure we're doing nowadays is they're their own boards, they're their own things. But it's not a bad idea to encourage them to look into their own programs like we're looking into recreation,
Help.
right? And say,
Put the
hey,
QR code outside the snack bar window.
Yeah, I mean, like, for example, the swim stadium, right? We could have some of the parents say, hey, this is what I like about it. This is, some improvement. Maybe basketball leagues or AYSO can say something about the fields that are being used. Same thing with baseball, right? The fields are great. I mean, especially after these shades go up, they might say, hey, great improvement, great job, and, that kind of stuff. So
right,
I think
we can get the park-based ones.
Yeah.
It's just we're
Can't
not
ask about the
going to
programs.
make the
Yeah.
programs do their own, but we can encourage them. It doesn't hurt them either.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Good.
all right.
sounds
All right.
good.
Can I get a motion to receive and file?
I move.
I second.
All in favor?
All right.
Hey.
All right, motion passes. All right, I guess that closes our open session items. We'll move on to the director's report.
We'll keep it short. We're going a lot longer tonight.
Yep.
Had some good conversation. Big things happening. I'll let Tina get most of the recreation side, but Circle Park is getting close. It will probably be done by the end of May, is the current hope. They're putting in the playground right now. They just finished putting up the shade structures, and the next up is the playground coming into the site. And then the landscaping is going to be last. Driveways are done. Pickleball's in. Basketball court is in, and the futsal court is in. We're trying to work with Southern California Edison to get proper netting around those courts, but it's kind of a fight right now. So not quite there yet on that. But most of that, we're hoping for end of May. And then Urban Orchard, we're looking at middle of July. Not that far. Possibly opening in that time frame. They've got a lot of things going on throughout the park. They've done a lot of planting, a lot of other things. So we're hoping to have that one. In fact, we're going to start planning the grand opening coming up here for that and others as we move forward. So a lot of the bigger projects are starting to move forward. And then, as Tina already mentioned, we're going to be, getting shade, doing cabinets, getting playgrounds. We're working through those processes.
Those are busy.
So, and that's all I got for now. That's good.
The rec side had a busy March with all of the family art night and the carnival. We had the Southgate pageant, fireworks go off, hosted the karate tournament, The car show. Car show. We had how many cars did it say? 120,
Wow.
122 or one something like that. 125, 125 cars. The car show. We had a glow in the dark pickleball that took place. We had good attendance. We changed things up a little bit. Everybody that was there had a great time. Staff did a really good job of adding some extra features to it. It was a lot of fun. And then we also have temporary pickleball courts on our tennis courts that are out there every day. So we painted, the staff did a good job painting the lines as best as possible. So, for now, we'll see how that goes, and eventually if we have the opportunity to make permanent ones, but see how if we can just get some interest in there. And then upcoming events we have this weekend, we have our Easter Fest, which is sold out. On Saturday, we have the Easter Splash, which still has some space in it from 2 to 4 on Sunday. Next week is spring break for most of the kids. So we have our sports camp. Every day is a different sport all week long from Monday through Friday. And then our mom prom at the end of the month is sold out. And on that, the 26th is mom prom. There's Special Olympics is hosting basketball in the gym, and that's also an Earth Day event for the city as well. And then headed right into the beginning of May is our on the 2nd, May 2nd is our senior ball. So we take 45 seniors to the Commerce Casino, and they meet up with 13 other cities who bring their seniors, and they have a big old dance or a ball, a senior ball for all the seniors. And this is the 3rd year. It's the 3rd year, 5th year. Oh, 5th year that we do the senior ball. I mean, it's been going on for a long time, but the scale, it's just become much larger than before. But the seniors, they have a blast. They really love it. And then JA opening day is on the 3rd. And also on the 3rd is the opening reception for the art for the art exhibit of playgrounds or jugamos. And that's from 1 to 4. So that's everything. Yeah, I think that's everything. It's on the May 3rd. May 3rd. And then the Spring Fit is on the 10th. So I think there are nearly 500 runners registered so far. And then lastly, on the 18th is a golf tournament, May 18th.
Thank
All
you.
right.
I could take a stroller for the spring fit, right?
And on the park side, we had a little bit of money left over from trimming Hollydale Regional Park. So I directed staff to have them come to trim the larger trees around the north and south playground. Excuse me. There's a couple trees on the north side I want to get, ficus tree and a eucalyptus. And then on the south side, there's a lot of larger trees. So you'll be seeing them there probably next week. You're going to see a lot of, as the weather's warming up, you're going to see a lot of overseeding projects. So that's why we have that yellow tape up around, like by Diamond 9, and you're going to see other spots, possibly Hollydale, over in the West Side parks as well. Ball fields and soccer fields have been renovated, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Got it right here. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Any comments? I had one for you and it just slipped my mind. Something about Circle Park and I forgot. Okay. Request for future items on future agendas. I did have one from last meeting that wasn't addressed. We had a representative to come in for travel baseball, asking for more time, or they were only getting one practice a month or something, and she was concerned about that. And we asked for a report on that, and nothing's been
Sorry,
brought
you
up
did forget about that one, but the team of the players that actually asked for that team disbanded and they no longer exist. So there's no really a report on it because they no longer exist.
Okay. And that was one of her concerns. So was it because of us or? Okay.
The problem is we got all the questions and concepts, and the people who showed up is that what they requested is against CIF rules. And what they found out was that what we told them was that we can't give you time on the field because the second you play in a travel league ball and you play in a CIF game, all of your games for the CIF are forfeited. And once they found that out, they disbanded the team.
Hmm.
So it wasn't a question of could they have more time as travel ball. We intentionally don't allow them to because we don't want them to break the CIF rules.
Yeah.
And if they did, they all found out, not only their teams, but the teams that they were bringing in were all like, hey, oh, you mean if we all play, all of our high school teams forfeit all their games? And that was the answer. And they checked on CIF rules and they found out that was true. And so we basically told them, look, during this time from basically January 1st to the end of May, no travel ball for high schoolers. Anyone, whether
For softball, baseball, and then each
Soft-
sport has its own
time frame.
time frame.
Basically, that was the rule before. They were trying to kind of go around it, and we said it won't work. And when they finally called the CIF and asked the question, CIF was like, "No, last year we disqualified 3 or 4 different teams in the area. We're doing the same thing." And so it's like they literally, one girl played one game for one of the other cities around here, and their high school forfeited every game. It's illegal in CIF to play in 2 different organizations at the same time.
So, but I mean, the bigger question is their concern was they were only allowed one game or
Yeah.
one
Right.
thing per. Is
Right.
that a
So
rule or
that
something?
was
or-
the situation, but because there was rules that were already in place as to why, so they're allowed, basically they're allowed certain friendly games to take place and certain amount of tournaments for the year. So that's just what the rule has been for all of the teams. So it wasn't that we're just doing it specifically to them. That's what the rule was in the understanding or the agreement between the JAA and the city.
Yeah.
So that's the short answer to that part of it. But then.
Because they were saying that they used to practice, I mean, or have things every weekend, and then all of a sudden it changed to once.
No, it actually never changed. We had always been, in fact, it was an agreement
Okay.
with the JA that June through December, they could play 2 friendlies a
Okay.
month. But once January hit, it was high school baseball, softball season. And we had intentionally stopped that for everyone at that point. And that's why they got 2. Well, all the other younger.
Everybody
travel
else got
teams,
one.
the 9 and unders, the 11 and unders who aren't in high school, they get 1 a month every month. But once you hit the high school age, you didn't, because the second you hit January, you were going to forfeit your game.
Right,
We
okay.
didn't want that to happen. So, but we doubled up their games June through December. There are opportunities there. Now, we don't give our travel teams all the time frames because the priority overall in parks is park program first, the registered youth leagues or anything we have,
Clinics or whatever.
clinics, partner organizations second, totally representing their regular time frame. So, JA always starts the first weekend in May, right? They're going to cover 90% of our fields Monday through Thursday and Saturday mornings. That we know, and that's scheduled out, right? Those are the first 2 priorities. The third one is tournament teams in season. There's differences, and we won't go over all that because it's getting a little late. Tournament teams in season, and then travel teams, right? We do that. And so those are the priorities across the board, and we fit them in as we can if there's open spaces, rentals to other things, but that's what limits a lot of this too. And staffing. The other part for that is across the board is if there's nothing going on, or if we have normal stuff and we schedule our staff, right? Boom, through XYZ date, time, right? Jay's season's over. We're talking baseball. So their season's done. There's no practices. It's because their regular season's done. We'll give them some time frames. But all of a sudden, if they want 25 new tournaments, we're not staffed for that. There's a large cost for us because we got to redo all those fields. We got to do all the stuff. We got to have staff to monitor the games, pick up the stuff. We're spending a lot of extra money on it, and we're not budgeted for it. So we say, hey, this is what we budgeted for. We're going through this process. And if there's a good reason, hey, we want a special tournament, we told them we'd work with them. But hey, we want a tournament every weekend for every weekend of the month. That's not reasonable on our part. And we made that agreement years ago. Once a month, you can do a friendly. Tournaments take a lot more time. There's more staffing, there's more field stuff. So we said, here are the parameters. If you want extra, come talk to us, but don't do that. And then the second part we also talked about and discussed with the JA at the time is that tournament teams and travel teams tournament teams have to come from our in-house players, and travel
Right.
teams have to come from our residents, right? For the most part. And part of the thing, which they even spoke about as part of the thing, is hey, they needed the kids from Colton and from other places to come play with them on our travel teams. Well, those aren't Southgate residents. And part of our thing is, as we've talked a lot about tonight, is we try to give discounts and services that are under cost for all of our residents, but we're not going to do that for every other city. We can't have 5 travel teams. We can't go support a 20-team tournament with 1 team from Southgate and 19 teams from other cities every weekend. That's just us giving away our fields.
If the fields are being paid for, it'd be different because now, okay,
We
we'll
have the
figure it
revenue.
out, but we're just giving fee waiver for all these teams to play. It doesn't
Right.
add
Also,
up.
we're just basically handing our fees to Orange County teams or to other people who are doing other things.
And you can't charge fees for that stuff?
We do, but they don't want to pay it. They want them free.
Then that's their problem.
Well, that's part of the, as you're noting, that's part of the
Yeah.
question is,
As long as it's available. I
right,
mean,
if they
Right,
want
but
to,
see, here's
Right.
the thing is if the Southgate team says, we'll host, so it's free, everybody wants to come to Southgate and play because they get free games, free fields. You know what I mean? And that's why it has to be a limit or a cap as to how many they're able to utilize, otherwise.
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
just-
you can cap it for, okay, we'll give you 1 free, but if you want 2, the second one is
well,
this
exactly, and
X
that's where
amount.
we were at. But that's
Yeah.
what the complaint was, hey, we weren't, we weren't going to give them the extra friendlies. We weren't going to give them the extra things. And so we have rules of friendlies.
Yeah, that part wasn't said though.
Right, is,
Yeah.
hey, four teams make up a friendly, so there's a couple games all at once. It takes,
Yeah.
a little bit of time. But you can't have that friendly every weekend with those same 4 teams. That means that the Pico Rivera and the Downey team and the San Pedro team are just playing on our dime the whole time. That doesn't work. If you want additional friendlies, go to Pico Rivera because they're doing yours. And then the next week, go to Downey, go to, Compton or whoever else is in it. And then, next month, come back to us, go to them, share. We're perfectly good with that. But we can't be the supplier of fields for every travel team in the league. It doesn't make sense. It's a cost question and not just a kind of who are we supporting?
All right. Well, thank you for that. And then just one thing to add for next committee, for next meeting is that I know I was getting some feedback from the JA saying that some of their scheduling wasn't being respected, that there was changes being made and James wasn't respecting certain things. So we can talk about the calendar, make sure that all the organizations or whatever they're grandfathered in is being respected. And I know there's other things that we want to try to implement as far as utilizing of the gym or using the fields. But as long as the organizations that have been with here the longest are being respected and kind of built around those, it would be appreciated.
Right. And I don't know that we need to bring that back because we can answer that right now for you.
I just didn't know if it was okay to do that.
Right. No, that's okay. I can answer that question for you now. We have what we say, the first Saturday in May is opening day for JA. We know that, right? Because we've all been here for a long time. We know that. But I've got my new sports staff at the time had been here 3 months. That's it. She didn't know this.
Right.
Right. And so she's trying to build up new programming. She's like, oh, we got fields here, we got fields there. And she didn't know all the traditional stuff. So we've made those training moves so that they know what's happening. And so we can say, hey, here's the traditional calendar. Mark these off on your fields. This is swim season. This is AYSO season. This is XYZ. These are it. Mark those out on your calendar already. So we don't try to eat up their spaces. Now, if
And are they providing calendars to you guys at least too? Because they should at least be
They've met
providing a
today.
calendar to you. I
We,
mean,
we now meet with them quarterly. We just met just the other day. We just met with them and nothing came up regarding that again. I mean, we're meeting with them regularly. So if there's an issue, I think if there was continuing an issue, I think it would have been brought up again when we just met with them a couple days ago. So I'm not sure what it.
And just to clarify, just for clarification, but was this person not trained prior to knowing or given a handbook maybe, or maybe a past calendar, to be able to know what the games were, or, what basically
Schedule.
was in the schedule? Yeah, thank you.
Right, and,
Um,
and some of that does fall back to us of, hey, we should have told you what the regulars are. If you don't know, for the last 2 years here, we've probably been short coordinators in the sports center we're supposed to have 5, and we had 2. And so we were using a lot of, hey, hourly staff, great hourly staff, you're filling in
mhm.
until that point. And some of them knew it. And then, hey, new staff, you're filling in. And so we were probably wearing a lot of hats and we didn't
Yeah.
get it all done.
Makes sense.
We're finally getting, hopefully by the end of this month, we will fill up our last 2 positions there, because there's
There, yeah.
2 or
hopefully.
3 still there.
That are vacant.
Yeah.
There's 2
2 at the sports center,
and 1 at the girls' clubhouse.
1 at the girls' clubhouse. There's still
Oh, 2 at the
vacant.
girls' clubhouse.
2 at the girls, yeah.
2 and 2.
So we're 4 out of our 12 coordinators, 1/4 of our 1/3. Sorry, my math is bad, isn't of our coordinators are missing at this point.
Mhm.
The world takes longer to hire things.
And we just filled within the last so many months 2 of them. So we actually had half
Right,
for a long time.
right. We were down to half of our staff trying to fill it. So yes, no, some of it we miss.
Yeah.
And we
Okay.
corrected part of that, because that was part of the problem. I got a call from the JA and they said, hey, they're taking our XYZ. And I was able to explain it to others that, this is it. This
Mhm.
is where we belong. But staffing, it was our fault. We'll
Yeah,
fall
no,
on our
yeah.
own sword on it. It was ours
Right.
of not giving them all the info. But sometimes you just assume everyone knows everything because you've been here so long. I
Right.
can tell you every date, but that doesn't mean that
They
the new
know it.
person knows
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off what Alan said, but there are certain because obviously my kids are in the program, and the little one, the grandfathered in, schedules and stuff. The the little ones, how old are they?
Peanut?
4, yeah, 4,
Peanut?
4, 5,
Peanut.
big Peanut Division 1. I know for the longest they've had it inside basketball, and they ended up getting the boot, not that long ago.
I'm
You
sorry,
know,
I missed the first part of that.
the little ones, the Peanut,
The peanut.
the 4-year-olds, the 5-year-olds,
The 5
6-year-olds.
and 6-year-old.
Right, yes, them.
Peanuts are 5 and
Um,
6.
They ended up having basketball practice outside. But for the longest, just what he was saying, being grandfathered in and, just not stepping on anybody's toes, they have to play outside in the winter and practice outside. And, they're little. And, I know for a fact, because I have, an older child, he used to practice inside. So it's just more of a,
Now, actually, that is not a traditional thing. Just so you know, that was more of a capacity question, because what happened is that for many a year,
Yeah.
the JA had more teams in basketball. You know this well.
Right.
We had a lot more teams. And so once you hit January, right?
Mhm.
In December, everyone could practice inside or outside depending on availability. Once January hit, every court was in use by games, and games take priority over practice. So for many, many years, everyone practiced outside because inside was taken every night with games. So, but for a little while,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
Probably more during your time frame, COVID, other things, different life, even 2019, the J was down on teams overall. Just they were mixing the boys and girls a lot more. They were doing different things on teams, and we had less games going. And so at that point, the JA decided that, hey, if we have less games, we're going to let the little kids practice inside. But as they finally have built back up some, those spaces have been taken by games again. And now everyone's back out on the outdoor courts.
I don't remember the little ones being outside though. Not the little ones. Maybe like Division 2 and 3 and even 4, obviously, but not the little ones.
Oh, no, everyone, I guarantee you, everyone was outside after January 1st. That was just our,
Oh, well, no, right after January. No.
so indoor, before January,
Everybody
the
practices.
little kids got the priority inside. And then the big kids, if they wanted more than one practice,
more than one, yeah.
they got booted outside. We let the
But
little kids.
I think if
before
I
we
remember
said-
correctly, it was Mondays. Only,
Right.
only the big kids played on court 1, so court 2 was available, and we would let the little ones practice on court 2
Right,
every Monday,
right.
even during the regular season. Only the little ones could practice on.
In
Court.
times after some of our youth basketball classes, they would come in.
Right,
But-
because Mondays typically our youth basketball classes are inside.
Right.
Yeah.
But that was part of it was we had them there and then the parents were like, hey, after 6:30 or 7, but when you're 5 and 6, 6:30 and 7 is bedtime.
Bedtime, yeah, exactly.
And so the parents would be like, we're not getting home till 8:30. You know, we want the 4 o'clock slot. Okay, that doesn't work.
Yep, yep.
So
Okay.
there's a balance there.
Mhm.
Well, thank you, Steve. I don't want to take too much more time. If we can have a motion to adjourn,
I make a motion.
I second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much, everybody. We will see you at the next meeting.